All right, let's do this. A deep dive into deep work. Looks like you sent over a bunch of great sources on this.
Yeah.
We've got Cal Newport's deep work, of course.
Of course.
We've got Greg McKeown's essentialism, and even, wow, a little taste of Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club thrown in there.
Uh-huh.
Looks like you're really serious about taking your productivity to, like, the next level.
Absolutely.
And I mean, honestly, who isn't these days?
Right.
Distractions are, like, everywhere. It's almost like mastering deep work isn't just a nice thing to have anymore. It's like a must-have.
It really is. And what's interesting about it, it's not just about getting more work done.
Okay.
It's about doing higher quality work.
Oh, interesting.
We're kind of moving away from that old industrial economy where it was all about volume, volume, volume.
Right.
Now it's all about this information economy.
Oh, yeah.
And the value is really in knowledge and innovation.
So it's like, instead of just being busy, 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 we have to be like strategic thinkers and creators.
Exactly. And Brynjolfsson and McAfee, in their book Race Against the Machine, they talk about how intelligent machines are already starting to take over all those kind of routine tasks.
Oh, wow.
So we need to cultivate the skills that machines can't replicate.
The things that make us human.
Exactly. And that's where deep work comes in. Think about Nate Silver.
Oh, yeah.
He was able to predict the outcome of the 2012 U.S. presidential election, like spot on, just by using complex data analysis.
That's amazing.
It's a perfect example of what deep work combined with technology can achieve.
I'm impressed. But here's the thing. If deep work is so valuable, why are we, like, doing everything we can to avoid it? Seriously, emails, notifications, social media, it's like we're addicted to distraction.
It's true, and it's this paradox of distraction, right? Without a clear picture of what distraction actually costs us, we just tend to do whatever feels easiest in the moment.
Right.
Cal Newport calls this the principle of least resistance. Like, we instinctively reach for that low-hanging fruit, even if we know there's something better up high.
I see. So checking email and scrolling social media feels productive, but it's really just shallow work disguised as being busy.
Exactly.
And that shallow work comes with a price tag.
Oh, yeah, a big one.
Newport mentions a study where Atlantic Media, a big company, was spending over $1 million a year just on email processing. $1 million.
Wow.
That's enough to buy a small company Learjet.
That's crazy.
Think about how much time you spend on email every day.
Uh-huh.
If we applied that same logic, that's potentially a lot of time and maybe even money lost each year. Like, we're paying this hidden distraction tax without even realizing it.
That's a great way to put it. And it goes beyond just the financial costs, too. It impacts us, like, on a deeper level.
Neurologically and psychologically.
Exactly. Think about Winifred Gallagher. She was a science writer who was battling cancer.
Oh, wow.
Even while she was going through that, she found solace and a sense of control by focusing her attention on specific activities. Her experience, and lots of studies, actually, they show this link between our attention and our happiness.
That reminds me of Csikszentmihalyi's idea of flow.
Right.
That feeling of being totally absorbed in something, where time just seems to disappear. We often think relaxation is the key to happiness, but like Csikszentmihalyi's research suggests that deep work, that intense focus, can be even more fulfilling.
Absolutely. It's about tapping into that sense of craftsmanship. Deep work allows us to, refine our skills, create something meaningful, become truly great at what we do.
I like that.
It's about purpose and accomplishment, more than just relaxation.
Okay, I'm sold on the idea of deep work. It's valuable, it's fulfilling, it's essential for thriving in this crazy world. But let's be real, breaking free from distraction, it's easier said than done. Good intentions only get you so far. I need actionable strategies, real tactics to make this happen.
You're absolutely right. Intentions without actions are just wishful thinking. Let's get into some practical strategies for actually cultivating deep work. First thing, we have to realize that our willpower is limited. We only have so much each day.
Right.
So instead of trying to resist distractions all the time, which just drains our willpower, we need to create systems and routines that make deep work automatic.
Work smarter, not harder. Set ourselves up for success.
Exactly. So Newport outlines a few different approaches, each with its own kind of flavor. One is the monastic approach. It involves completely disconnecting from distractions and shallow work. Think about Donald Knuth, the computer scientist. He famously doesn't even use email.
Wow, that's hardcore. I admire the commitment, but ditching email completely, I don't think I'm ready for that. Are there any, less extreme options?
For sure. There's the bimodal approach, which is a bit more flexible. It's about switching back and forth between periods of intense deep work and then periods of regular work life.
I see.
Like, a good example is Carl Jung. He would retreat to his stone house in the woods to write, but then he'd come back to his busy life in Zurich.
Okay, so dedicated deep work sprints without going completely off the grid. I like that. What about if I have a more unpredictable schedule? Is there something I can incorporate daily, even when things are crazy?
You could try the rhythmic approach. It's about carving out a specific time every day for deep work and treating it like, an unbreakable appointment.
All right.
Even if it's just like the first 2 hours of your morning before everything gets crazy.
Oh, that makes sense. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
But what about those days when my schedule is just completely unpredictable?
Then maybe the journalistic approach is for you. It's about grabbing those little bits of free time throughout the day and using them for bursts of deep work.
Ooh, I like that. The art of opportunistic deep work. Speaking of opportunities, what about those grand gestures that Newport talks about, like Bill Gates' Think Weeks, where he completely disconnects to focus on the big picture?
Those can be incredibly powerful. They kind of shake things up and let you break free from your routine to reach a deeper level of focus. But of course, they often require a level of control over your schedule that not everyone has.
Right, it's all about finding what works for you. But no matter which approach we choose, we need to create an environment that actually supports deep work.
Absolutely. Newport talks about designing a deep work machine, a dedicated space where you can fully immerse yourself in your work. It could be a home office, a library, even a quiet corner in a coffee shop. The important thing is to have that place where your brain knows it's time to go deep.
Makes sense. Now, we've talked a lot about cultivating deep work, but what about taming all that shallow work? We can't just eliminate it completely. So how do we manage it without letting it take over our lives?
That's where Greg McCune's essentialism comes in. It's about being super selective with our time and energy, focusing on what truly matters and cutting out the rest. One of his strategies is to schedule every minute of your day.
Wait, every minute. Doesn't that sound a bit, well, rigid, like I'm trapped in some kind of productivity straitjacket?
It's not about controlling every second or, eliminating all spontaneity. It's about making conscious choices about how you spend your time.
Okay.
Think of it like budgeting, but for your time instead of your money. You decide in advance where you're going to allocate your time.
So I decide where my time goes instead of letting my inbox decide for me.
Hmm?
I like that. What else can I do to minimize the shallow work and maximize my impact?
McKeon also suggests actually quantifying the depth of each activity, like really analyzing how you spend your time and figuring out which activities are shallow and could be reduced or eliminated. Think about those meetings that could just been emails or reports that no one really reads.
This is making me think about all those times I say yes to things that don't really align with my goals. Like I'm afraid to say no or disappoint people, but then I just end up feeling overwhelmed.
I hear you. It's a common trap. McHugh actually suggests a pretty bold move. Ask your boss for a shallow work budget.
Wait, actually tell my boss I want to limit shallow work. That seems risky. What if they think I'm not a team player?
I know it might feel that way. But if you frame it as a way to be more effective and focus on high-value activities, it can be really persuasive. It's like saying, I want to do this even better by streamlining these other tasks. It shows initiative, a commitment to getting better results.
Okay, I'm starting to see how it all fits together. We cultivate deep work, we minimize shallow work, and we create more time and energy for what really matters. But how do we go beyond just doing good work and actually achieve mastery in our fields? How do we become like the Nate Silvers of our own domains?
That brings us to the idea of deliberate practice. It's a key part of becoming an expert in anything.
So it's not just about putting in the hours, it's how we spend them.
Exactly. Research shows that even experts rarely spend more than 4 hours a day in deliberate practice. It's about focused effort, pushing yourself to get better. Not just doing the same things over and over again, but identifying your weaknesses and working on them specifically.
Quality over quantity, even for the pros. Do you have any examples of what this looks like?
Think about elite violinists. A study found that the ones training at a top music school in Berlin average about 3.5 hours per day in deliberate practice. It's not about these marathon practice sessions, it's about short bursts of focused, high-intensity practice to improve specific things.
So find the areas where deliberate practice will have the most impact and then just ruthlessly focus on those. It's about working smarter, not just harder. And that brings us back to minimizing distractions. If we want to achieve that deep focus and engage in deliberate practice, we have to train our minds to resist those distractions.
It's like an athlete taking care of their body outside of training. You have to create an environment and habits that support deep work, not just during those dedicated periods, but all the time. It takes a conscious effort to be mindful of how we're spending our time and energy, even when we're not actively doing deep work.
All right, makes total sense. But let's be honest. Completely disconnecting in today's world is a tall order. So what are some practical tips for managing our relationship with the internet and all this technology without going completely off the grid?
Newport has a few suggestions that can be really helpful. One is to schedule your internet use. Instead of being online all the time, decide in advance when you'll be online and stick to that.
So it's like setting boundaries, almost like a digital detox, intentionally disconnecting for periods of time to reclaim our time and attention.
Exactly. Be intentional about your technology use. Don't let it control you. Another thing he suggests is to be more selective about the tools and services you use. Apply the law of the vital few, or the 80-20 rule, to your digital life.
Okay, so instead of signing up for every new app or service that comes along, we should choose only the ones that really contribute to our goals and well-being.
Exactly. He even talks about a 30-day digital declutter where you disconnect from all non-essential online services for a month to really see what value they're adding. It can be a great way to break free from the grip of technology and rediscover what it's like to be less connected.
Wow, that's a big commitment. But I can see how it would be incredibly freeing to just declutter our digital lives and reclaim our time and attention. Before we move on, I want to touch on some insights from McKeown's Essentialism and Sharma's 5 a.m. Club. McKeown talks about applying extreme criteria to our commitments. If it's not a hell yeah, it's a no.
I love that. It's about saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things. It's making sure your actions align with your values and priorities, not just reacting to every opportunity that comes your way.
And speaking of hell yeah moments, Sharma talks about the power of the 5 a.m. club. I've been curious about this for a while. What's a big deal about waking up at 5 a.m.?
What's interesting is how it connects to everything we've been talking about. It's about creating a powerful routine that puts personal growth and productivity first, setting yourself up for success right from the start of your day. It's reclaiming those early hours before the demands of the day take over and using that time to invest in yourself.
Like front-loading your day with intentionality and energy, creating a foundation of focus and clarity for the rest of the day. But is it just about waking up early? What else is involved in the 5 a.m. club?
It's more than just an early wake-up call. It's a whole system that includes things like exercise, meditation, and personal reflection. It's about developing a strong inner life, improving your well-being, and ultimately reaching your full potential. There's even a specific formula, the 20-20-20 formula.
How about that?
It's about dedicating the first hour of your day to three things: 20 minutes of intense exercise, 20 minutes of reflection or meditation, and then 20 minutes of learning or personal growth. It helps set the stage for a much more focused, productive, and fulfilling day.
Wow, I can already feel the energy shift just thinking about it. We've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive. From the importance of deep work in this information age to the hidden costs of distraction and the power of deliberate practice and routines. Before we move on to the next part, I want to leave you with this.
What's truly amazing is that we have the power to shape our own lives, our own work. We're not just victims of all this distraction. We can choose where to focus our attention, how we spend our time. It's a choice that shapes our lives and the impact we have on the world. So, what will you choose?
That's an awesome question to think about. We'll be back soon with more insights from your sources, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into deep work. We just explored all sorts of approaches to deep work, from the hardcore monastic to more flexible journalistic.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see how deep work isn't just some abstract concept, but it's something anyone can actually do.
Right.
But I have to admit, scheduling every minute of my day, I'm still a bit intimidated by that. Doesn't that kill spontaneity or that creative flow?
That's a really good question. It gets at how we balance structure and flexibility, right? Even Cal Newport, the deep work guru himself, he says it's not about becoming a robot, it's about being intentional.
Okay, so instead of seeing a schedule as this rigid thing, I should think of it more as a framework, something that can support focused work, but also those moments when creativity just strikes.
Exactly, like having a roadmap, but being open to detours along the way, right?
I like that. So a schedule helps me stay on track, but I can still explore new ideas as they pop up.
That's the idea. One strategy I found helpful is what Newport calls fixed schedule productivity.
Okay.
It's about setting clear boundaries for your workday. Deciding when you'll start, when you'll end, and then really protecting those boundaries.
So no more checking emails late at night or working weekends unless it's a real emergency. I can definitely get on board with that.
It's about separating work life and personal time.
Exactly. But what about those unexpected things that pop up all the time, those urgent requests or those last-minute fire drills, the things that can just derail even the best plans?
Right, those are tough. That's where task blocking comes in.
Task blocking.
Instead of letting those unexpected tasks just hijack your whole day, try allocating specific blocks of time for them,
Oh, hold
like
on.
maybe an hour in the afternoon or even just 15 minutes every couple of hours. The point is to have a designated time to deal with those interruptions so they don't mess with your deep work time.
So I'm being proactive,
Right.
creating space for those inevitable distractions instead of just reacting to them all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And that same principle applies to those shallow tasks that we can't completely eliminate, like checking email and going to meetings.
Right. By scheduling time for those things, I can make sure they get done without interrupting my deep workflow.
Exactly. And here's a tip. Make those blocks a little longer than you think you'll need,
Why?
just to give yourself some buffer time, for when things inevitably take longer than you expect.
That's smart. I'm always underestimating how long things will take, and then I end up feeling rushed and stressed. Building in that buffer time seems like a great way to avoid that feeling.
That can make a big difference.
What other tips do you have for creating a more efficient and less stressful workflow?
Try batching similar tasks together. It helps minimize all that mental switching between different types of work. What Newport calls context switching,
Okay?
it can really drain your energy. So, for example, instead of checking email all day long, I just have two specific times when I do that, once in the morning and once in the afternoon.
Right, like creating a dedicated focus zone for each type of task.
Yeah, exactly.
These are great tips. I'm already seeing how these small changes can really add up. But what about those times when, despite our best efforts, our brains just won't cooperate? We've all been there, right? Staring at the computer, but our minds are a million miles away.
Oh, absolutely. Those moments of mental resistance, they happen to everyone. But the good news is, we don't have to just be victors of them.
So what can we do?
Newport suggests something called productive meditation. It can be really helpful in those situations.
Productive meditation. Isn't meditation supposed to be about relaxing and clearing your mind? How can it be productive?
It's not about emptying your mind or chanting. It's about using those moments when your mind is wandering anyway, like when you're walking or in the shower, to actively think through a work problem.
Oh, I see. So it's like a mental workout.
Yeah.
Using those times to make progress on those tough tasks.
Exactly. The key is to focus on just one specific problem and don't let your mind wander off to other things. It might be hard at first, but with practice, you'll be surprised at what you come up with during those times.
I love that. Turning those dead times into opportunities for creative problem solving. It's like those moments suddenly become meaningful and productive. Speaking of which, let's go back to the idea of minimizing context switching. It seems especially important now, with all the notifications and digital distractions we have. How do we create those pockets of focus when our devices are constantly begging for our attention?
That's a tough one. It's something even the most disciplined people struggle with. The key is to be proactive, not reactive. We have to design our environment and the way we use technology to help us, not hurt us.
So it's about taking control, setting boundaries, not letting our devices control us. But honestly, I'm kind of scared to turn off all those notifications. What if I miss something important?
I get it. We're so used to reacting to every ping and buzz that we've forgotten how to wait for things. But try this. Instead of checking everything as it comes in, set specific times to check your email and social media.
Okay, so it's about taking control, deciding when and how I engage with technology, not the other way around.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to experiment, too. What works for one person might not work for another. You have to find what helps you minimize distractions and get into that deep work zone.
This makes me think about all the tools and techniques that are out there for managing our digital lives. Apps that block distracting websites, things to streamline our inboxes, even ways to use social media more intentionally.
Absolutely. There's a whole world of digital productivity tools. The important thing is to remember that these tools are meant to serve us, not the other way around. We need to be in control, not the technology.
It's all about finding that balance,
Yeah.
right? Using technology without taking over our focus and well-being. Which brings me to another challenge, FOMO, that fear of missing out.
Right.
We're constantly bombarded with information, with updates, with everything. It makes you feel like you have to be connected all the time to stay relevant. So how do we overcome this FOMO and create space for deep work without feeling like we're falling behind.
McEwen actually talks about that in Essentialism. He suggests something he calls reverse piloting.
Reverse piloting, what's that?
Basically, it's about testing what happens if you eliminate or reduce something before giving it up completely.
Okay.
So let's say you're constantly checking social media and you feel like you can't disconnect. Try a little experiment. Drastically reduce your social media time for a week or two,
Okay.
and then see what happens. Did you miss anything truly important?
Right. It takes the pressure off. It's like I'm just gathering data to see what the real impact of my choices is.
And you know what? Often we find out that the things we thought were so important aren't really that crucial after all.
Interesting. So maybe we're more productive and less stressed when we're not constantly bombarded with information.
It's possible.
This is making me realize how many commitments we make, both at work and in our personal lives, that we just assume are important. But maybe they're actually draining our time and energy without giving much back. How do we get better at separating the truly important things from the rest?
That's what essentialism is all about, and it takes practice. One thing McEwen suggests is applying really extreme criteria to our commitments. Like if it doesn't make you say, hell yeah, then it's a no.
Right. Be ruthless with our time and energy and only say yes to the things that truly excite us and fit with our goals and values. But how do we actually do that? I mean, it's easy to say hell yeah to everything, but in reality, we have obligations, we have expectations.
It's not about becoming a hermit or ignoring your responsibilities. It's about making conscious choices instead of just reacting to everything that comes at you.
I see.
And this applies to everything, your work, your social life, your personal goals. You have to ask yourself, does this really align with what I believe in? Does it contribute to my overall goals and vision?
So take a step back, really look at how I'm spending my time, and make sure my actions are matching up with my priorities. I'm starting to get it. We cultivate deep work, minimize shallow work, and be really picky about our commitments. And by doing all that, we create space for the things that matter most, our passions, our relationships, our own personal growth. But it's not always easy, is it? We've talked about distractions, the fear of missing out, the pressure to be productive all the time. So how do we stay motivated and committed to this deep work journey, especially when things get tough?
That's where the final piece of the puzzle comes in. Building a really strong vision for your life and work.
So it's not just about the tactics, it's about having that deeper purpose driving us.
Exactly. Simon Sinek, in his book, Start With Why, talks about understanding your why, your deeper purpose.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
When you know why you're doing something, it's much easier to overcome those obstacles and stick with your goals, even when things are difficult. But finding your why, that's a personal journey. There's no magic formula.
So it's about exploring, trying different things, and figuring out what really resonates with you, what connects you to that deeper purpose. This reminds me of what Robin Sharma talks about in the 5 a.m. Club, developing a strong inner life.
That's a key part of the 5 a.m. Club idea, and it fits in perfectly with what we've been talking about, finding your why and building a compelling vision. Sharma is all about journaling, meditation, visualization. These are things that can help you become more self-aware, clarify your values, and connect with your deepest aspirations.
It's like building this foundation of inner strength and resilience that helps you navigate challenges with more clarity and purpose. And it seems like this inner work is super important for making those deep work practices sustainable in the long run.
Absolutely. Deep work isn't just a productivity trick. It's about how you approach your work in your life. And that takes a strong inner foundation.
This makes me think about mindset and how our beliefs and attitudes can either help or hurt our deep work efforts. If we think deep work is hard or boring, we're more likely to get distracted. But if we value focus, intentionality, the pursuit of excellence, we're more likely to stick with it even when it's tough.
You got it. And that's where Sharma's ideas about self-talk and visualization are really helpful. By choosing positive thoughts, we can shift our mindset and make it easier to do deep work. And visualization helps us see ourselves succeeding, experience that feeling of accomplishment, which strengthens our commitment.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I believe I can achieve deep work, I'm more likely to actually achieve it. And that sense of accomplishment just makes me believe even more. It's a positive cycle.
It's a positive feedback loop that keeps those good habits going.
Okay, I'm feeling super inspired after this deep dive. We've covered so much, from practical stuff like scheduling to finding our why and building that strong inner life. Deep work isn't just about getting things done, it's about living a more meaningful life.
I agree. It's not just about getting to some end point. It's a way of life. It's about cultivating focus, intentionality, and a deep connection to our work and our lives.
Before we go to the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listener with this.
Mm.
What one small step can you take today to bring deep work into your own life?
It doesn't have to be anything huge. Maybe set aside 15 minutes for focused work, or turn off notifications for an hour, or go for a walk and do some of that productive meditation. Small steps, done consistently, can lead to amazing changes.
So take action, try things out, and discover the power of deep work for yourself. We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of deep work. We've explored the strategies, the mindset, all the things, and now I feel like I'm ready to actually make deep work happen.
That's the spirit. Deep work is all about taking action, actually putting these ideas into practice.
Before we wrap up, I want to make sure we've gotten everything we can from those amazing sources you shared.
Yeah.
We've talked about Newport strategies, Bakunin's essentialism, and Sharma's 5 a.m. club.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, any little gems that we haven't touched on yet? Something that could really help our listeners take their deep work to the next level?
Let me think. One thing that really stands out to me is from Newport's book. He talks about the craftsman mindset.
Okay.
It's about approaching your work with a sense of pride, really owning your skills, and striving for excellence in everything you do, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem.
Oh, I love that. It's not just about getting it done, it's about doing it well. It reminds me of that Japanese concept, shokunin, the idea of being dedicated to your craft, pursuing perfection in everything you do.
That's a great connection. It really highlights the deeper satisfaction you can get from deep work. It's not just about being productive or efficient. It's about mastering your craft, creating work you're truly proud of.
Right. And that makes me think about how deep work could be the answer for people who feel like their jobs are meaningless. When you approach your work with this craftsman mindset, you're not just checking things off a list, you're creating something of value, something that reflects your unique skills.
Exactly. It's a way to find meaning and purpose in what you do, especially in a world where so much work feels impersonal and transactional.
Totally. Deep work lets you connect with something bigger, contribute your talents, leave your mark on the world. Okay, switching gears a bit. Something else that really hit me from McKeown's essentialism was this idea of buffer time.
Oh, yeah, buffer time.
He's all about building in extra time to handle unexpected stuff, avoiding that feeling of being constantly rushed.
Buffer time is so important. It's such a simple idea, but it makes such a difference. We tend to think we can predict and control our time, so we cram our schedules full, leaving no room for error.
Right. And then it's our well-being that suffers.
Yeah, exactly. Buffer time gives you more breathing room, more space to adapt when things inevitably go wrong. It's like a shock absorber for your day.
I love that. And it reminds me of another great concept from essentialism, essential intent.
Oh, yes, essential intent.
It's about focusing on the main goal, the most important outcome, and letting go of all the little details that can bog us down.
That's so important for deep work. When you're clear about your essential intent, you can make smarter decisions about where to focus your time and energy. You're less likely to get distracted by things that don't really matter.
It's like a compass that keeps you on track.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive completely, I want to circle back to the 5 a.m. club one last time.
All right.
We talk about the power of that 5 a.m. routine, but I'm wondering what you think about the bigger message behind the book. It feels like it's about more than just waking up early, right? Like it's a whole philosophy for living a better life.
You're getting it. The 5 a.m. club is really a call to personal mastery. It's about stepping into your full potential, creating a life that truly reflects what you want. The 5 a.m. routine is like a symbol for the dedication it takes to get there.
It's about taking control of your life, your time, your energy, and using all of that to create something amazing that's inspiring. It's a reminder that we have the power to create our own future.
It's not about chasing external validation or material things. It's about cultivating that connection with your inner self, your passions, your purpose.
So it's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly.
And deep work is an awesome tool for starting that journey.
Well said. It's a path to fulfillment, a way to live a more intentional and meaningful life.
Well, my friend, I think we've officially reached the bottom of our deep dive.
I think so too.
We've covered it all, the practical strategies, the
Mhm.
philosophy, everything. And I feel so energized. I'm ready to put all of this into action.
Me too. That's what's so great about deep work. It's not just about learning something new. It's about changing, transforming. It's about using your focus, your intention, your creativity to create something meaningful, both in your work and your life.
And a huge thank you to you, our listener, for coming along on this journey with us. We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and practical ideas to bring the power of deep work into your own life.
Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. Start small, try things out, and see what works for you.
And most importantly, enjoy the journey. The world needs your focus, your talents, your deep work.
So go create something amazing. We'll be here cheering you on. Until next time, happy deep diving.